There you have it, everyone. That is my process for planning out my training, especially when it's not as much FKT season. It's actually a video. By the way, as I was leaving the coffee shop back there where I was working, a young lady noticed that I had this big camera, and she asked me, what do I do? She thought I was a photographer, and I said, no, I'm more of a videographer. I have a YouTube channel. So I told her about the channel, but she asked, well, that's interesting, because I'm trying to start a YouTube channel. And you probably can guess what my #1 piece of advice was for her. Patience, just like in running, all right? It's like patience with YouTube, patience with running. That is the name of the game, is making sure you don't rush the process of building up your aerobic base. First, your endurance, your stamina, your muscle strength, your skeletal strength, making sure your bone density doesn't get ramped up too quickly, because that's when stress fractures, stress reactions happen. So anyway, that was my #1 advice for the young. If you watch this, keep going on YouTube, but be patient. Be patient. That's right, patience, patience. It's a patience game, including with my rib right now. Still a little tender. It's coming around though. And also with getting back into running, which is happening sooner rather than later. But I did tweet out a couple days ago, I said, itching to run. And then I followed that up with, not yet. Like, I know, and we're going to talk about peaking at the right time a little bit today. I know that with Pikes Peak on the horizon, sooner rather than later, I'll just tell you now, 5 weeks, I know I just needed to be patient this week following the Kendall Mountain Race. And again, we're going to talk about fitness and how the process is going to play out over the next 5 weeks in order to, what do I always say, arrive on the starting line as fit as possible, as fresh as possible, and as healthy as possible, especially for all races, but especially for peak races where you are geared up. This is one of your, let's say, top 2 or 3 races for the entire calendar year, like a big road marathon like Amsterdam last year for me. But I also get it. Thank you for your more patience. Thank you for your patience with my filming and talking in the studio. I prefer, you probably have picked up on this, I prefer to create vlogs that integrate as much beauty as possible into the proposition in order to, I'll just say it, in order to keep you, engaged with the video. So you watch, as much of the video as possible, and it's just part of my DNA. Like, I cannot resist filming the mountains for all of you, filming the epic running shots. But during this down week when I'm not running, I do appreciate you being patient with me. We're going to get back to the mountains sooner rather than later, so stay tuned for that. Okay, let's dive in. Here we go. First of all, since the DGR virtual marathon, I've said this before and I'll say it again, things have been a little loosey-goosey in my training, meaning I have not, I've been training hard, training at a high level, but the FKT work up in the mountains has definitely been a bigger focus than, let's say, arriving at the Kendall Mountain Race as fit as possible, as fresh as possible, and as healthy as possible. For example, in those FKT efforts in the mountains, honestly, like the effort that I'm putting forth for most of them, maybe not all, definitely Long's Peak, definitely Huron, definitely Mount Elbert, even Mount Chavano, like all these FKTs, it was a race effort. I'm just gonna be straight up, like, maybe Mount Chavano was a little questionable on the effort as far as like all out, but these were hard uphill, because I know to track down these times, especially Mount Elbert, snagging it from Sage, shout out to Sage, like I knew the time was really tough to track down. So that was my hardest by far, like all out the entire way up the mountain. I would not do that in a typical training block. And I wouldn't advise that you do that in a typical training block, where at the end of the training block, your ultimate goal is to win your age group, set a PR, chase down a course record, whatever the case may be. Simply finish the 5K without walking. That's what True Love's goal is, coming up sooner rather than later. We have an announcement on that coming up very, very soon. So at the end of the day, the last 3 months the last 2.5 months have been fairly loosey-goosey with respect to the precision in my training plan. And part of that was because all the races in May and June and even part of July were canceled, okay? And so there was no races to really train for, except, yes, last weekend at the Kendall Mountain Run, which was one of the few races happening in the state of Colorado during these summer months. Now, with respect to training, I am in the camp, and here's my training log that, yes, I'm old school. We'll talk about this in a sec, but I literally, at the beginning of a training block, and I'll just say right now, Pikes Peak, 5 weeks away. It's a building off of the last 2.5 months of mountain running that I've been doing, but it is honing in, being way more precise in the workouts, in the amount of vertical, in the gym work. We'll talk about the gym work. And so at the beginning, I do start with a pencil, and I just start jotting down, make sure I have an eraser as well. Because what I do is I just write, and then I look, and then I write again, and then I get the eraser out, and I erase, and I don't like that. Too much there, not enough here. Oh, I wanna make sure I get vertical here. I wanna make sure I'm working on power 20 days out from Pikes Peak, meaning I'm gonna put some weighted vest on me and run up a mountain. All of these little things that I prefer to write it out on paper first before transferring it to an electronic document that I have saved in Google Drive. So that is my, when I talk about the process of writing out my training plan, that's how I do it. And now for me and my body, listening to my legs, I definitely fall into the camp that, with respect to training, that I don't want to hold my peak volume for too long. And frankly, in this last training block leading into Kendall Mountain, it was borderline too long. But again, I was going a little bit flying by the seat of my pants because, again, there were no races in June, no races in May. Therefore, after Kendall Mountain, that is why I'm taking these 5 days off, because I knew that holding that amount of volume in order to arrive at the Pikes Peak Marathon starting line fit, fresh, and healthy, fresh would be the big, big question mark. And now in that vein of thought, it's been hard for me to embrace this over the years at some points, but I have accepted, and I bet many of you out there have accepted as well, that you figure out how much your body can handle in training, meaning how much running you're doing. We can only run so much, which is hard for me to accept sometimes because I just love running, and I know you love running, and we just want to run, and we just want to run. But at the end of the day, it's walking that line, calculated risks, and what I've been attempting to do the last, let's say, 2.5 months, but with the gym closed, it was a little harder, right? The gym that I go to. Therefore, again, here's the document that I want to share with all of you. This was a document that I've had percolating for years and years, but I've been adding to it, and here it is on your screen. So these plyometric / form drills are just some I like to call them movements, whether it's form drills, plyometrics, strength work, whatever you want to call it, but little action items that I really need to take in order to prepare for Pikes Peak at the highest level possible. Because again, I could run all day and run mountains all the time and get 30,000 or 25,000 or 20,000 feet of vertical in a week, but is that actually helping? And I've had to accept the fact that I actually don't think it is. I think it can actually be a little detrimental to your peak performance on race day. Therefore, supplementing your running, your vertical running, with these types of exercises is what I'm excited for in the next 5 weeks leading into the Pikes Peak Marathon. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to make a separate video about how to do all these. In fact, there's a couple more that I'm still, I've integrated in the past into my training, but I want to make sure that they should be added for the Pikes Peak Marathon final push. So, we've got quick feet. You've seen me do quick feet a bunch of times. Soleus spring, I've done a couple times, but I've only filmed it a couple times. So I want to make sure I show you that. Single leg box jumps, love those. Jumping lunges, and oh, Mr. Roboto, I love that one. So I'll make a separate video explaining this document in more detail. Now, if you have seen the prehab vlog, that is also connected to this document. Upper right-hand corner, action items that you can take in order to stay healthy. For example, basically with my runner's knee in January, I really needed to be very regimented and precise in my prehab work. So it's a play on the word rehab. So instead of doing rehab where you're already injured, prehab is where you do your best to, again, do movements with the body that will help you prevent injury, especially as maybe you're upping your volume or you're upping the intensity in your training. So anyway, I just wanted to point out this document. It is, and I'll probably make it public somehow via PDF and email. I'm not sure yet, but I'm working on it and I'm excited to film it all for you very, very soon. There you have it, everyone. That is my process for planning out my training, especially when it's not as much FKT season, but more so, okay, let's get ready for a peak race. Let's rock and roll time. Let's, hone in a little bit, be a little more precise in the action items that I'm taking, whether it's with running, getting to the gym, recovery, etc., etc. And question of the day, I've asked this before, but I think it's been like 4 or 5 months. What is your process for planning out your training blocks? Okay, how do you do it? Some people are, just spreadsheets. Some people are online training programs. Some people are simply going by feel every single day. So they don't follow a training plan per se. It's more up here based on how their body feels. All right, that's the question of the day. And if you're a new runner, I would really encourage you to go down into the comments and just start getting ideas flowing. And you could probably pull different ideas from different people that are like, you know what, I like this. I like how they're, using, I don't know, maybe they mix like heart rate training with running by feel, which is more how I train. So anyway, there's different ways to build training programs is what I'm getting at. Onward and upward. Let's do this, everyone. Pikes Peak Marathon, 37 days to go. 37 days. All right. Let's toss it back to, well, why not? Let's do the Pikes Peak Marathon from 2020. I ran the Ascent. So this is not the vlog that I ran, that I did for the Ascent. This is for the marathon the next day. Pikes Peak Marathon, right there. Butter my bread. See beauty, work hard, and love each other. See you tomorrow.